have an announcement.
Well, welcome everyone. Welcome back to the Workplace Wellness Hour. Glad to see everyone here and hope everyone's having a great Monday. We are live on LinkedIn and on YouTube. And if you're joining us live, please, or on replay, let us know where you're watching from. Let us know what city, state, country you're watching from. And also, let us know if you are team live or team replay. So as far as the topic today, we're going to be talking about the future of work. This is a topic that has been definitely on a lot of people's minds. There's been a lot of questions about what does the future of work look like. So it is something that we all have different experiences, but we are definitely going to dive into that because for everyone, it's a little bit different. And when we share, we all get to learn from each other. So thank you for people who've already joined us. Great to see Hannah. Thank you for being here, Hannah. And Margaret. Great to see Margaret here. And then, of course, we have our wonderful supporter, Christy. Great to see you, Christy. And Jenny Gold, great to see you as well. Thank you for coming here. So again, let us know where you're watching from. And if you're, well, obviously you all are team live. But I have two amazing co-hosts here who we were just talking in the pre-live. Really just, it was almost like a grateful fest. We were very grateful. We started off just one of us saying it, and we all just kind of just realized how grateful we were for each other. And that sometimes, you know, being able to be transparent with each other really does help us as a community. And so when one of us is going through something, sometimes all of us might be going through it, or a couple of us. So it's just a good reminder to don't always feel like you have to have your guard up with those closest to you. Let it down. Let them know you're going through something because they might be going through something too. And Nick, who is just another person who's a wonderful person who gives so much of her time. It's great to see you as well. And with that being said, Jenny, great to see you from Denver, Colorado. But that being said, let's talk about some introductions because I always tend to forget those introductions. So Sumana and Ashley, it's so wonderful to see you here. Please, Ashley, why don't you start us off with introductions? Tell everybody a little bit about yourself and your initial thoughts about this topic.
Sounds good. Thank you, Felipe. And yes, couldn't agree more. Right before the show, we really were in a grateful fest, just, you know, showing the love for both of you. And I really do love both of you. I'm so glad to be here with you tonight and every other week. Introductions. Hello, everybody. I'm Ashley Fluellen. I'm an artist and a workshop facilitator. And through my workshops, I help leaders resist perfectionism by tapping into their creativity. So these are in-person and virtual workshops, and by engaging in a creative process, I hope to help us navigate uncertainty and overcome those, you know, extreme type A tendencies. And initial thoughts on this topic, I'm really excited. I actually last week came across an art therapy journal. So I've been reading in that like a crazy person, and I found this really awesome essay with some exercises, some therapeutic arts exercises to help folks who are going through a change process. So I'm excited to share that today because it is a changing world. Work is changing. It feels like everything is changing. So having some tools in our toolbox will hopefully be helpful. And I will pass over to Sumana to introduce yourself.
Thank you, Ashley. Thank you, Felipe. Welcome, everyone. So happy to have everybody join us. I was saying in the chat box that, or chat box in the live LinkedIn Live event that it is a long weekend for us here in Canada. So today is like a day off. So I'm not sure how many Canadians are in the group, but it's a family day holiday. So we've been kind of thinking a lot about, or I know I've been sort of thinking a lot about family. And this right here, this space, as Ashley has already alluded to, and Felipe too, is family for me. You know, I never feel like this is a job for me to come do on a Monday night. In fact, it just feels like, you know, I look forward to it in many ways. It's therapeutic in many ways. And it's just an opportunity for me to like connect with these beautiful humans that I met here on LinkedIn. And, you know, you guys are like my family. So I feel like whether it's our pre-live and how we talk about what we're going through, or the things that we share live on the show. They're all real stuff because we're all kind of in it. Anyways, having said that, my name is Sumana Jetty, and I'm the founder and president of Jetty Wellness. We design science-based strategic wellness solutions for businesses, and we are primarily focused on helping businesses that are 200 plus employees, because a lot of the workshops that we do are geared towards leaders and managers. So that's sort of what I help with. I'm very excited to talk about this, loaded question. I know when Felipe posted the topic, I was like, yes, the future of work is changing, and there's a lot to dive into. And because I'm already thinking about like workplace wellness from that bigger lens, I have a few ideas that I'd like to share once we sort of get started. But happy to see everybody in the live. Hannah, our interns, also listening to us live. As some of you know, the content from each show, the live show now that we're doing on LinkedIn, we collate the key messages from our monthly show. So if we have 2 shows a month, we'll package that all up, and we do post it on Jetty Wellness blog. So last month's content, which when we did the 2 shows in January, that's already available on our blog. So you can go read that. And we'll do the same process here in February as well. So if there's 3 shows, we'll do key messages for 3. But if there's 2 Mondays in a month, we'll do key messages for 2 in one combined blog. So if you're someone who doesn't like listening to replays and audio here, you can definitely go just read the key messages, Felipe's 5, Ashley's strategies. They're all on the blog. So feel free to go read that, and share with the people that think that this is important to them. I'll pass it back to Felipe to introduce himself, and then we'll get the party started.
I'm so glad you said introduce myself, because I would have forgotten. we got right into the topic. Well, thank you, Ashley and Sumana. For those of you I have not had the pleasure of meeting, my name is Felipe Cofino. I am a passionate HR professional, career coach, LinkedIn enthusiast, and I've been lucky enough to be selected from LinkedIn to be a top voice, but I'm also a father, son, a brother, and family and friends and work all impact us. And so for me, any way I can give back, the way people have helped me through my journey, is one of my goals. And whether I do that in the workplace or at home, it's a win-win. And I want to say hello to a few people who have joined us. Lisa Fevick, it's great to see you here. For those who don't know Lisa, she does a lot of work around women's health. Dr. Marcia as well, great to see you here. And Melissa Houston is here as well, my partner in crime, little sister from the Careers, Chaos, and Coaching. So it's great to see everyone here. I encourage you all to share, again, where you're watching from. Tell us if you're team live or team replay in the comments. For a couple reasons. One, we'd like to know where our audience is coming from, what time zone you're in, but also it lets us know that you're here. Because otherwise, if you don't comment, we don't really know that you're here necessarily. So it's a great way for us to see that you're actually here during live. And also share your thoughts or comments. We're going to put the link here in about 15 minutes to join us on stage. We are doing audio only today in case anybody hasn't noticed. And so please feel free to ask your questions or share your comments in the chat, or come on stage and let us know. Now, we had a lot of discussion this week about this room topic, because we had so many ideas that we were all very passionate about. We had some guest speakers that we thought of as well. And we realized that maybe we will make this into like a series around future work, because there's so much that falls under that umbrella of future work that I think it'd be a 3-hour show if we try to tackle it all today. So we figured, let's try to do this in different chunks, but we also want to know what parts of it do you all want us to tackle first as we go through some of the stuff today. So let us know in the chat, or come up and share on stage. Now, when I put the post here, the original post with this room, it really was about starting off with, what can leadership in the workplace do about the future of work with it changing? Whether it's changing because you're here in the US government, a lot of things are happening to change the government. Are you impacted by funding that's been cut off? Are you impacted just because of job changes in your industry? Are you dealing with change in the workplace because change of leadership? So a lot of different ways that it could impact you. And so real quick, I do want to dive into, and I'm going to do this fairly quick because I do want to get Sumana and Ashley's point of view about topics that they think are definitely high on the priority list as well. I'm going to give a quick overview about some things for leaders to think about. If you got a small group, you got a big company, does it matter? If you have 2 employees, how are you navigating this future of work? Are you being futuristic? Are you being future focused? Are you thinking about what do I need to do as leader to make sure that we can survive this change? And so here are a few things I want you all to think about real quick. So I'm going to show you real quick Felipe's 5. That's a little bit hard to read, but I'm going to go through them one by one real quick. But the 5 are having adaptability in the work models that you have or are creating. Number 2 is reskilling and redeployment. And we'll talk about that in a second. 3rd, prioritizing employee well-being, which we know is important. And 4th, trust and transparency. And then 5th, resilient leadership and culture. All right. So going to the first one here. Oops. What did I do here? All right. Adaptability in work models. Here's as a leader in the workplace, whether you're, the head, leader, if you're just got promoted to a leadership role, staying flexible in evolving workplace is such a huge thing, because when we don't have all the answers yet, there's some uncertainty about what the future of the workplace looks like because you had a change in leadership or you had a change in funding or whatever it might be. We have to think about how can we still be sustainable and manage through this. It's like having a kayak in a river and hitting some really fast rapids. How are you going to stay flexible enough to manage through these rapids to get to the other side? And that is leadership. It's part of the leadership responsibility to think about that. You got to think about the future and think about some things you got to do to make sure that they're navigating so that the staff can stay focused and the team can stay focused. And that's an important quality. Number 2 here is reskilling and redeployment. So many people do not utilize the employees to their fullest. Employees have so many other skills and probably just the one job that they're doing. So preparing for new roles and emerging opportunities, thinking about what's that future look like in the workplace, how is it changing, and how can we tap into some of these strengths that we already have on the team. Number 3, prioritizing employee well-being. Now, we talk about this in this room a lot, but how to manage stress, how to build resilience. This is so important because especially during times of change and uncertainty, people will start feeling the pressure, start feeling the stress, the anxiety. And so learning how to manage it, talking about it, being transparent about it, talking about skills and tools to use to help you manage that stress, and what you're doing to keep things moving forward. That is what a lot of people look for in leaders, is they look for those answers that they don't have. So when you're able to provide them some transparency of information and you're able to show them that, hey, I'm dealing with stress too, and this is what I'm doing to help manage my stress. These are important things to share. Focusing on employee well-being and helping them be more resilient is only going to help your company or organization survive. Number 4 here is trust and transparency. And I've said that a lot already, but it only strengthens the communication and the decision-making. If you have people focused because they know they can trust and you're being transparent, they're not going to be filling in gaps with questionable things about what might happen. They know what might happen. That's why they can focus on what they need to do. So being able to do that will strengthen the team, it'll strengthen the support you have, and it'll help them stay focused and not wondering. You never want to pay people to wonder or worry because it's very expensive and it's not very productive. Number 5 here, and the last one, is resilient leadership and culture. Now, hopefully you've been building a good culture this whole time, and that's going to help you get through these difficult changes. But leading with empathy and fostering connection, there's probably no time more important than when people are going through a big change. And it's creating fear, uncertainty. It's creating a lot of questions. Leading with empathy and fostering those connections are so important because, again, when people understand that, hey, you're not alone, other people feel the same way you do or going through the same thing, it helps people maybe realize, okay, So it's not just me. Maybe we can think together and come up with ideas together to work together to find out how to get through this together. So those are Felipe's 5 I wanted to share real quickly. I know that those are ones that, again, from a very high level leadership model, I wanted to start off this series, if you will, with just leadership. Keep in mind that people are going to look at you for these answers, and we need those people that can say sometimes, I don't have the answer right now, but this is what I'm doing to find out or work towards it. And again, that's transparent and honesty. You can't, really ding anybody for that. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to, I'm going to switch it up. I'm going to pass it over to Sumana to give us her scientific approach and share her other priorities that she thinks wants to share and add. I do want to say hello to Hannah, who I see has joined us as well. Great to see you, Hannah, from Boston. I say like I don't know who Hannah is, but
You know who Hannah is. Hannah works for Jetty Wellness.
wait, like Hannah from Boston, like I was straight from Boston. So
no, Hannah's been part of Workplace Wellness and Workplace Leadership Hour for a long time now.
Yeah. Oh, and I'm sorry, and hello to Dilip and Leah Garcia. Thank you for joining us as well. I see y'all slipped in there. So, but Swana, over to you. Please share your thoughts and insights.
Thank you so much, Felipe. I did love listening to your Felipe's 5, and I think there's quite a bit of an overlap between some of the things that you've shared in these like overarching buckets. I think the bigger question that I was thinking about when we were discussing like what is future of wellness or work look like, and I was thinking about those 3 domains in your original question, which was like workplace wellness, belonging and culture. So I'll talk about all 3 of those from where I'm seeing the literature change, but also I'd like for folks here to consider these bigger buckets as things that are constantly going to change as we normalize some of these conversations. So I focus on workplace wellness primarily. And what I'm noticing is, when I talk about, because the word wellness is becoming a little mainstream now. And, even if you type wellness on Google, you're going to see things like yoga and drinks and face creams and bath bombs and things like that. But the overarching thing when we think about work and the future of work in terms of workplace wellness is health, right? So I've talked about this in Workplace Wellness Hour before, but healthy living in terms of my quality of life, what does that look like for me in the future of work? It's not just a perk anymore. We have to prioritize healthy living and think about workplace wellness as health and what do I need to improve my quality of life? As I've mentioned before in the show many times, burnout is not just impacting your work productivity and retention and all of those metrics that we're measuring in the workplace. It's actually impacting your own quality of life. We're all coming in with chronic anxiety, chronic diseases. Those are the things that we need to be paying attention to. So think about these changes in the workforce as like, what do I need now to be healthy? Just think about that. In terms of belonging, this has been such a huge conversation topic for me because this is something that all workplaces are now prioritizing, and that is social support. I think all employees, especially leaders, need to start to think about belonging from a perspective of not just inclusive leadership, but also how do I create these strong connections? Because like I said in the beginning of the show, for me here, this space is family. So it becomes important to me that I show up and I'm as a leader or as a colleague or as a friend to Felipe and Ashley and to all of you, that I'm creating a space where you are also feeling valued for spending your time here. So I think that the social support piece is incredibly important, more so connected to our mental health as well. And we can never forget culture. I think culture is just something that we talk about a lot, but I'll just say from the bigger perspective, from the leadership space is, what do I mean when I say culture? I just want to see changes in values. I want to see that are we all working together to create something meaningful in a psychologically safe, space, but also being open to, having these conversations with our employees about their experience. And that goes down to what Felipe was saying, for employee well-being. We definitely want to start to destigmatize these conversations about burnout and stress. And, me showing up to work today, for example, here, and telling Felipe and Ashley, like, I don't feel that great. I'm kind of struggling. And that is the reality of it. And me actually emailing my other intern early this afternoon with some work, and I actually said, I'm sorry that I'm late by a day for this project. Is I'm actually not feeling very well, like mentally I'm not there, but like here it is. So just being honest and letting them know why I was delayed in my feedback to them by 24 hours. And I was honest. It is because I'm not well, and my mental health is not in its prime space. So just to wrap it up, I'll just say that, and we've talked about this in our white paper as well, but leadership support, whether it's your formal, executive leadership, or like informal champions that are in the workplace, I think we all can work towards aligning our practices from that wellness perspective, from that social support perspective, and also sort of thinking about those shared values that we want to action. So I'll just leave it there, and I'll pass it to Ashley.
Hello, everyone. Thank you both so much. I wrote down so many notes, and I really like how all of the pieces that both of you hit on have a lot to do with finding support and cultivating support within your workplace culture, especially when changes are happening. And so I am going to bring in a bit of an artful perspective. And I loved earlier in the show seeing all the art love. I saw Felipe, Margaret, Nick. I agree with you about summer. I plan to spend a lot of time outside making art during the summer. Jay also made a comment about painting. And so I'm glad that we're all in this space. We all, find art to be useful, because this is my whole shebang. So this essay that I read, it is titled The First Step Series, Art Therapy for Early Substance Abuse Treatment. Obviously, that does not directly relate to work, but I did find the strategies and the topics that they talked about to be really relevant for today's topic. So just to introduce a little bit of, I guess, vocabulary to get us all into the purpose of the exercises. First of all, change is a process, and humans just so happen to be very, very unskilled at managing change. We're slow to change. We don't love when change happens, and it takes us a long time to navigate and to get comfortable whenever we're faced with change. And right now, in the world, in work, in our lives, a lot of us are having to go through change. Some of us are having to pivot. I personally am having to make some pivots in my business. And it's difficult because denial usually comes up in human beings when we're going through a change process. So this essay utilizes motivational interviewing, which is a technique that specifically targets denial when you're going through a change process. And it offers some exercises that work to target denial, work with you to help overcome it, and get you to the other side. So these are 5 artistic exercises that you could do either individually or with your team. Or I don't know, if you know of an artist who loves to design and deliver arts-based workshops, you could maybe invite an artist to come and do these activities with your team. But these are the 5. The first is crisis directive. And that asks you to depict the incident, depict the crisis that has brought you to where you are currently. So in your workplace, whatever the thing is that is causing you to make this change, explore it, depict it, create a piece. You don't necessarily have to write it down. You can collage it, you can paint it, but just visually depict what that incident was that brought you to now having to make a change. The second exercise is the recovery bridge. Again, this has to do with substance abuse, but I'm kind of looking at it through a work lens. And this exercise asks you to create a bridge that depicts where you have been, where you are now, and where you want to be. So visually see the bridge and show where you started, show what was in the past, show where you are now, where you are in the present, and then in the future where you want to be. You might not have the steps that will get you there mapped out, but at least seeing yourself in the future is helpful for visualizing and for overcoming that denial. The next exercise is a cost/benefits collage. And this asks you to create a collage that explores the cost/benefits of staying the same, staying where you are, and the cost and benefits of making the change. Number 4 is depict yourself a year from now if you were to implement the change. So again, it's both of these exercises are asking you to look critically at what could happen if you decide to stay the same, if you decide not to implement the changes, and then what can come if you do decide to change. I also love this because it asks you to do a little bit of manifesting and making some visual goals, a bit of vision boarding for where you want to be in the future. And the last one, which I think is extremely important, this one asks you to create a picture that addresses the barriers you will face if you were to adopt the change. And I think that this one is so important because, like I said at the top, humans are very slow to change. Change is a very long process. And what trips us up is the fact that often there are barriers that are stopping us from getting to where we want to be, whether it's an entire team working toward a goal, whether it's an individual making a pivot. There are usually some sort of barriers for the change happening. And those barriers stop us. I personally freeze whenever I'm scared. I don't like to move and then I get stuck in that space. So directly addressing the barriers that you will face if you were to adopt this change at least gets you in the mind state to be resilient and to know that you're strong and that you can navigate these barriers. You can navigate anything that might pop up while you're in the change process. So those are my 5 exercises, a little bit of art therapy for you on this Monday evening. And I will pass back over to Felipe.
Well, I thought that was amazing from both of you. You both shared some great, amazing insights. First, Samana, I love how you really kind of just reset the mindset of how you look at things and really focus on the word belonging and how we can really do things to help people be open to change that can help them improve the culture, the values, the mission, the idea of what's important so that people can get on board. Because when you have people that feel like they belong, or they feel like they're valued, or they can get behind the mission and the values of the company, it makes a big difference. And when change is not always a bad thing. And people think it's always a bad thing, but the reality is we've all experienced change so much. And the hope is that when we do have change, that it actually ends up being something better. But when people do change fast and they're not being transparent, you start questioning, well, what's going to happen? Why are they changing it? Well, we don't know. We don't have any answers to these questions. So we're going to assume the worst. And that's where we get in trouble. And Ashley, I really got to say, the whole, all 5 of those ideas I love because of the visualization of it. And also because it really does make you dig deep and think and be honest with yourself. All right, what is this thing that I'm afraid of? What's this future picture if I don't change, if I do change? What does that look like? And so often it's like when we say things out loud and we hear ourselves say it, we realize, oh, all right, as I say it, it does sound a little bit silly, but that's the whole point of wellness is we don't have all the answers and our minds are so complicated that they will go on their own journey if we don't do things to take care of it. Our mind's a very delicate machine that needs updates. Go take it for a tune-up. Go get some maintenance. Have someone come in, check on it. Because that's what doctors are for. But we need to do our own maintenance on it. And so doing these things like Ashley suggested, I think are brilliant because it really does help you kind of be honest with yourself while you're doing something that's a little relaxing. So I love that. Um, I got to ask, so Sumana, what are your thoughts about what Ashley shared and vice versa? And also, by the way, before you do that, I want to let people know that I did put the chat or the link to join us on stage in the chat. So feel free to join us up here. I'll keep on putting it in there periodically so it doesn't get lost in all the comments. But for those of you that are still with us, please do me a favor and share this room with your network. Let them know that we're going on live so they can join us on stage or they can learn from the people that do or anything that we're sharing. With that, over to you, Ashley and Sumana.
I actually had a question for Ashley, which was out of all the 5 exercises that you shared, which one's your favorite?
Ooh, good question. Okay, let me look. Let me think. I am really, I think my favorite one, and this one is what I plan on doing this week, would be the cost/benefits collage. And I'm really interested in that one because collages are meant to be really accessible. They're a really accessible art form. You don't necessarily need technical art skill. And the reason why I love art so much is because I feel like it kind of provides like a security blanket for you to see things that you might not necessarily see within yourself when you're thinking so hard about it. And in my own pivot, in my business, I am curious about what's going to come up for me if I were to visually depict something that would show the costs and the benefits of staying the same and of changing. I can think about it all I want. I can journal about it all I want. I can be in my conscious mind, drumming up fears, coming up with whatever is there. But when I sink into my artistic mind, I'm curious to see what's going to show itself. Yeah.
No, I love that. And there's so much value in writing and drawing and math. And I'm the same way. Like I'm not an artist like you, but a lot of us in the science space where I used to create a lot of experiments, and that requires me to write out the different steps from the time I start the experiment to the step 10 or 20 or how many ever steps it takes. You got to write it out and make sure that it makes sense, not just to you, but maybe to a research student or to my boss and my boss's boss, right? So there is value in writing out a lot of your ideas, especially when you're navigating so much change. The only other comment I think I wanted to sort of lean into when we're talking about change, and that's kind of Jay, you alluded to that as well in your comment section here. You said change is great, but not at the expense where it is putting the employee's job in jeopardy. And what I've seen in a lot of workplaces, and listen, if you're a leader in a workplace, because I come from healthcare and there's a lot of change and there's not a lot of communication about that change. So middle managers, especially someone like me, when I was a middle manager at the time, we would only hear like whispers about what is going to happen, oh, maybe the budget's going to come out, or it's not going to come out, this program's getting slashed, or this program's getting funding. So because we don't get the full picture, the rumors would start to spread and people would start to get anxious about what could potentially happen to their project or their job, potentially losing students or losing team members. So I think it's so critical to make sure that the communication about this change is not just clear, but you're not, again, like what Jay said, you're not doing it at the expense of an employee's well-being, especially if you know that this change could impact program funding or budgeting, for example, because a lot of our healthcare projects are dependent on what's going on in the economy or what's happening, in the infectious disease space. Is there an outbreak? Maybe we need to spend more money towards managing that particular disease, and therefore we might have to pull money from another project. So I think it's really important for leaders to ensure that if you have information, please don't sit on it. Try to share that with your team with as much transparency and empathy and clarity, so that they're not creating these like rumors and these micro moments of anxiousness, which can further their burnout and their stress, if not already. So I'm sure Felipe will have a lot to say about that, but I'll just stop there, and we welcome anyone else to please come up on stage. I think there is a link that is available that we can have you up on stage.
Samana,
Go ahead, Ashley.
sorry, really quickly. I just wanted to make a comment on your share as well. And I think my favorite part of this is that in all three of the strategies that you listed, I like how it kind of starts like macro, or starts micro and then gets macro, between workplace wellness to belonging to culture. And I love how you also acknowledge that wellness is like a mainstream term now, and you look up wellness online and yeah, you see candles and bath bombs and, you know, sparkling waters. And while that's all well and good, we need to think about wellness more critically. So asking those questions about like, how do I need to be healthy? What do I need to be healthy? Making it a little bit larger, looking at your community. How do I create those strong connections? And then even larger, looking at the workplace culture, seeing those changes in the values, figuring out like how you all can be a piece in making something larger and more meaningful. I just
Yeah, no, and I love that, because when we talk about, and Felipe, I'll hand it over to you in just 1 second here. In when we talk about wellness, and this is so funny because my company's name is Jetty Wellness, and you know, lately I've been thinking, did I make a mistake by using the word wellness at the time? Because this is now years ago when I was coming up with the strategy for the company name. Wellness was a word that was being used not as mainstream as it is right now, but I'm never going to change the name of my company, but you know, because we always embed the idea that it is about the health of the individual. So for me, healthy living is such a big part of like, what does that mean? And when we talk about wellness here, I'm also thinking about not just for the individual, but also for the teams, for the groups, for the leaders, and for the organization. So it's a systemic approach to well-being, and health is embedded in that. You can never take health out of wellness. And if you want to read more about that, we did publish like a white paper, because we wanted to distinguish what well-being and wellness and health, they all mean different things. But ultimately, if I were to speak to somebody and ask them, what's the most important thing for you right now? They may say something like, hey, belonging. And I would say, okay, you really value relationship. Or they could say culture, and they could say, I really just want to feel like I'm part of something bigger in the organization. Or they could just say like health. I just want to be healthy. I want to not feel sick. So I'll stop there. I'll pass it to Felipe.
Oh, thank you, Smart and Ashley. And you all brought up some great points. We do have some people in the green room here. We have Gregory and Marcia, who I'm going to bring on here. And before I go to them, I do want to just real quick touch on a few things that you all mentioned, because you all shared some great things about each other's share. And I do agree, similar to what Jason is saying here, is that wellness can be used anywhere, and it is mainstream, like you said, Sumana. One thing, though, that I think is important is, we've talked about it in different ways, but the visualization is so important. And I don't know why my picture is not coming up. I'm starting to realize that. But visualization is so important. And whether you write it down, paint it, one of those two options are going to help you. You know, Ashley demonstrated 5 different ways that you can really help yourself manage through change. Melissa Houston, you know, she's the queen of document and act, you know, and that phrase right there is so powerful. Write it down and then do something. Because when change, if you just sit back and hope and wait, you're giving everyone else the power to make decisions for you, basically. And that's not always going to be in your favor. So I do think it's important that that manifestation, A, be positive, 2, is not just fluff, and 3, that you actually act on it. So with that being said, thank you everyone that has joined us here again. For those who joined us recently, let us know where you're joining from, what city and state and or country. We really want to have an idea of what our community that's watching this, what time zones you're in, because that might make us look at changing the time of the show. But also let us know what time zone you're in, and also let us know what countries you might be in. But also let us know if you're watching Team Live or Team Replay. We are broadcasting live on LinkedIn and on YouTube. If you want to check out the YouTube channel that I'm trying to build, I don't have that many followers right now, but I do have about 50 some. But that's where I do have a playlist of all the workplace wellness hours we've done this year to try to give everybody a place where they can go catch up on some of the past ones in case you don't catch them here. As Swana mentioned, you can definitely, for those that like to read up on the highlights and have some takeaways written down, she'll have that on her website. So we want to give you different channels to follow us to get the information after the room. But if you're live, go ahead and join us on stage like Gregory and Marcia. And do me a favor, share the room with your community so they know that we're going on live, because a lot of people in your network might not be in our network. So by you sharing it and reposting it, people are able to go ahead and do that. So Gregory, we're doing an all audio today, so you don't need to turn on your video. It's okay. But go ahead and join us. Oh, I'm sorry, Marcia, that was you. And so Gregory, please go ahead and join us and let us know, what are your questions or thoughts about this topic here today?
Well, I just read the topic. Thank you for having me. Sorry that I'm late. I was watching a provincial, or I will say to you folks in the United States, a state debate in another on a government TV network. So sorry that I'm late to the party and stuff. So I just read the show notes of what you're talking about with the recent executive orders down in the States, and I will say that it's major going to affect the wellness people of Black, Asian, Latino, as well as people who have a disability with the utter destruction of DEIAB, which is diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging, and acceptance type of policies. I will say not only in government, but in terms of overall businesses, small, medium, and super large in that capacity. And I think that we're going to have, I will say, uber mental health crisis within those communities. And I think that this is going to really cause multi-generational harm and harm in this nature, and I will say harm in other protected groups outside of those groups. And I will say and the prime example is a person by the name of I think Rebecca Miss Swan. I can't Brittany Swan, who is in my network, and she basically made the case that DEI programs affected will also hurt Caucasian personnel, because it stretches to them as well too, in terms of equity and inclusion. And a person by the name of Kristen Firth, who is a talent acquisition person, wrote a good, powerful newsletter saying that it does that DEIAB programs does not exclude Caucasian personnel. It opens up the corresponding talent pool. And when I was thinking about that, it could even hinder or basically put barriers in regards to low poverty type of Caucasian individuals who does not come from a privileged or background of experience basically handed to them.
Well, great.
In regards to those situations and stuff. So yeah.
Well, and Gregory, you're bringing up a topic that I think is definitely one that people are definitely want to dive into, and that is probably going to be one of the topics that we do dive into is what is the future look like, without DEI? Are we taking those values away? Is it the words? What does it do for the people that do the work today? There's a lot of questions around that, and so that is going to be something that we're going to be tackling in future shows.
Mhm.
Marcia, if you're still on here, please come back up. I don't know if you're having connection issues, but we hope you can come back up. Sumana or Ashley, any thoughts on Gregory's share?
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with you, Gregory. You made a good point in showing how slashing DEI efforts is going to affect everybody. And I don't think that that's being thought about well enough. And I completely agree. It's like the mistakes that we are making now are going to have a long lasting, multi generational effect. And it's really unfortunate. And it can be hard to navigate, especially when you're on the ground working, unsure of where things are going to go, to manage that. So I completely agree, and I'm excited to talk about this more in future shows as well. I know that we have a DEI topic coming soon, so
That's
yeah.
why I like to just put this added on here. I will say recruiters, talent acquisitions, personnel needs to be, and I say this, and I will say this analogy time and time again. We need some major white hat moments, a la Scandal. Watch the show. It's white hats are the good guys. Black hats are not so good guys and girls and stuff, and we need a lot of white hats in the fight or in the foxhole right now to combat these types of actions that's going on here, because I spoke to someone in my academic circles. It could fester into here in Canada, which I will say, if it does, that's going to be virtually a bad day for all diverse people and nations, because we have a truth and reconciliation type of stuff for the indigenous community and stuff. So
Well,
sorry to.
let's hope that happens. So, and Sumana, what were your thoughts you want to share?
I don't really have much to add to this one. I think the only thing that sort of came to mind, this is again like me just putting on my data driven sort of hat, is, if things are getting slashed, things are changing, I think we should just be prepared to have better metrics, new metrics to measure. I'm always thinking about it from the lens of, like, if something goes away, what am I going to measure next to ensure that I'm still capturing the essence of the problem? So that's about all I want to say. I think, just be a little flexible with what are some new metrics I can add to if this change were to impact, this variable. I know I'm sounding very sciencey right now, but that's about all I have to say, and I'll pass it back to you, Felipe.
No, and I think that's important. Melissa in the comments mentioned that we just have to continue to work together. And Chasen, great to see you here as well. And we do have to work together to offset those setbacks, because the reality is people are feeling like we are being set back a little bit, but the future is still unknown. And the reality is that there's a lot of people fighting the good fight, if you will. And hopefully we all can be on the same page, and whatever this future looks like, maybe it is something that can hopefully be something that is hopefully somehow turns out for the better in the long run. But right now, there's a lot of unanswered questions of, well, if you take this away, how are we going to measure this? Like you said, how are we going to know that companies are doing the right thing? And so there is going to be a lot of questions out there that we don't have the answers. But that's why we're going to make this into a series, because I feel like every week there's new answers being revealed, some good, some bad, and some that don't make sense. So with that being said, Marcia, welcome on stage. I'm glad you made it. Please tell us your thoughts, questions. The mic is yours.
Hello. I'm just I don't know. Just a lot. But you know what? As my mother tells me regularly, I cannot worry about what I cannot control. I cannot. And I'm not trying to let this, this whole situation just, consume with this because it's what it is. But Samantha, you did make some good points. Um, think of wellness critically. And people are not really looking at it critically. And this is why I have so many outlets, Amanda, because I need those. So I could really, kind of like, step away from what's really happening and just kind of have some fun. And I think a lot of times, even in wellness, it's really about taking care of yourself. But at the same time, we still need some laughter. We still need some fun. We still need to have things that bring us joy, things that make us feel good. Even if you have to bring back your inner child sometimes, do that because we're going to need a lot of that. Really have good support systems. In the workplace though, what I put in the comments, Felipe, I met that change could be good if it's communicated. I work somewhere where they don't give out information, and I'm like, well, how do we know that? And it's been actually getting worse this year, and it's like, this is not acceptable. I said, how can we do our job if we don't have the information? Information is only good as what's given, amongst other things. So, unfortunately, at our company, a lot of our money is dictated by the government. But I say at the same time, what's going to happen is going to happen because I can't control it. I cannot control it. So I'm going to be ready. I'm going to stay. I could do what I do for myself. Stay healthy, stay well, stay. What's the word I want to use? Stay relevant. Keep my skill set updated. Be ready to flip if I need to, because there's no game out here. And hopefully this should bring people more together than apart and really realize the magnitude of what's going on in this country. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcia. You made some great points, and I applaud you for the mindset you have of how you're looking at this, because I think we do have to be somewhat optimistic, but you're right. Any change, if it's not communicated well, it's going to cause problems. And I think that's important globally, within our own countries, within our own workplaces, with our own families. It means it's in all aspects. And the part where you're focusing on what you can control, that is such a huge mindset that we all need to make sure that we focus on. Write down the things that are going on in your life that's stressing you out, and make two lists: things that are controllable and things that are not controllable. And then put that list of things that are not controllable off to the side and focus on what can you do with things that are controllable. Because one, at least you're using your energy towards something that's productive. Two, it's things that are within your control. Now, there are some things that may seem uncontrollable, but you might be able to do things indirectly, and that's great. But don't spin your wheels. Like I said, don't be in that hamster wheel in your head that's just spinning and spinning and spinning, because you're doing all this work and energy on something that you have no control over. If I wanted our rocket ships to go to Saturn, and I decide today that I have no history in any kind of physics or rocket ships, why am I going to exert my energy? Now that sounds like a silly analogy, but the reality is that I have no reason being in that lane. There's nothing that I can do to change that because I have no experience or information about it. So why am I going to exert and worry about that? So again, whatever it is, make sure that you can do something, because Marcia, it is scary for so many of us. And I think that using your energy to say, okay, I'm going to keep on doing my job, but I'm also keep on my mind open in case, for the future, because I got to look out for myself too. And I think that's a healthy way of looking at it, because you're having that plan B, if you will, in case you need it, hoping that you don't, and hoping that things will get better. Ashley and Sumana, your thoughts on Marcia's share?
Yeah, I just want to echo, and I know we don't have much time left, so I'll be quick. Just the frustration that comes when you work in a workplace where they're not telling you what's going on. Like, it just feels impossible. It feels like you're stuck, and it takes away the opportunity for you to be an active participant in the change that's happening. So I'm really sorry that you're going through that and that your workplace is like that, but Marcia, you have maintained your strength. Stay strong. I know that you are bringing a lot of light into that space. And yeah, Sumana, I'll pass over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Marcia. I was commenting in the chat there. You've expressed everything so vulnerably, and you continue to, show up and upskill and, stay relevant, as you said. And I mean, that's basically all we can do. I myself personally have had to reduce the number of platforms that I can stay on, and I've had to pick the ones that are the most important to me and for my business, which is here LinkedIn and Instagram. So I've had to take a pause on TikTok just because I was getting frustrated with too much political for you page content, and two, with the ban on TikTok, no ban on TikTok, all of that stuff was just adding to my already elevated anxiety. So like everyone's else recommendation here, it's like write down what I can control. I can control where I show up. So I'm going to show up where I'm getting the least amount of anxiety and where I can potentially make the most effort. For me personally, with all the chaos I'm going through, I've been literally living day to day. So it's kind of like, what can I do in the next 24 hours? So tomorrow's plan's already pre-created. Wake up, go to the gym, which is the first thing I do, and then everything else that's required for me to survive the day, and then end with my journaling, my meditation, and my nighttime routine. So living day to day, I think, is a good strategy when things are feeling a little crazy. But I do want to allude to one comment here about communication. Nicole's been sharing some really cool comments here. And the one that I really liked about hold on, I'll find the one that I thought was really cool, where she said employees are not just worried about their jobs, they're worried about their physical, emotional, and mental, attacks in the current climate in the United States. And it's also, I'm not making a political statement, only to just talk about the levels of changes in the public eye. So I think what I gather from this comment is that we're all dealing with more than what is just going on in the workplace. So going back to what I said earlier, if you are dealing with, or as a manager or a leader, if you have information and you're sitting on that information, please don't share that with your people, and not just share them as in like, here's the information piece I want to share with you. Oh, there's going to be some budget cuts. Don't just say that. Ask them, how will it make you feel if this were to happen? And just have a very transparent, it doesn't have to be an hour-long discussion, but like a 10-minute conversation about, what does this mean to me, my team, my well-being, my job, all of that stuff, and do it in a safe and psychologically safe way. That's about it for me. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Samana. And, I want to touch on a few comments here that have been said recently here, because first of all, or is it here? All right. So Melissa Houston, once you've written down the worries, you can kind of release them. And there's some truth to that. It really is something that it can be released from the front of the mind, like she says, and you're able to focus on other things. And then also, she also liked Sumana's or Ashley's art therapy. But Sajith Kumar, welcome. Great to see you, our friend. He makes a point here that in the big, huge picture of things, we've been through a lot. We've dealt through a lot in our lives, and this is another big change, and we'll get through it together. It's just, again, how we all learn to manage it. And there is some challenges with different situations. Some of these past things have not affected everyone. Some have affected all of us. But it is something that, like with everything, it will pass. And let's not be optimistic that things could hopefully somehow get better, that they're not going to be the worst case scenario, because that's not going to help us either right now, is doing making assumptions of things that we have no idea if will happen. And then Sujit also said he likes the color as well. Crystal, thank you for coming. Great to see you. And as far as what you were saying, Sumana, I do want to wrap up here because we're at the end of the show. But I think there's so many of us that are dealing with different struggles at the end of the day. We all are very different. We all have different lives. We all have different experiences. But the one thing that we have in common is that maybe we're struggling, and it's not something to be ashamed of. Everyone falls down. Just because you fall down doesn't mean they've lost their way. They just need maybe a little help. And when we get that help and get back on our feet and can get focused, it's great. But sometimes we need to do that for ourselves. And we can't forget that we should be our biggest supporter, especially during change. And you have to have the confidence that you've been here, you've done change, you can do this, and focus on the things that you're grateful for that are helping you get through that change, because that gratitude's a big, big, a big thing to have in your tool belt, if you will, that can help you get through those difficult times. So, with that being said, please let us know in the comments if you're a Team Live or Team Replay, but also let us know what topics do you think should be next for this series about the future of work. Is it DEI? Is it affirmative action? Is it workplace wellness in general? Is it about culture? Let us know what you want us to tackle. There's so many things out there that are going on. Let us know if it's something specific to your industry, your world. We are open to all topics around workplace wellness. So with that, want to give Ashley and Simona a chance to share their final thoughts and share any final things that might be coming up. And in 2 weeks, we'll be back again for another topic around the topic of future of work. So make sure you let us know your thoughts as we discuss that amongst the three of us. But Ashley, final thoughts, comments, and anything that you have coming up.
Yeah. I mean, my final thought, I'm just always so eternally grateful for you both, for our community, for this space. I say it every 2 weeks, but I learn a lot being a part of this. And it just means a lot getting to have these conversations and getting to be a part of this space. So thank you to you both, and thank you to everybody else for joining us tonight. And then as far as things that are coming up, I've been like slowly introducing, and I'm going to continue slowly introducing until it all comes together. But I am working to build an online artist community called Dear Imperfect Artist. And I have this week created a Discord channel. And I always forget to put links to these things on LinkedIn, but hopefully I won't this week. I will promise, and hopefully I'll deliver on it. I'll link to the Discord channel, but essentially the goal of this community is for imperfect artists to share knowledge and share space with other imperfect artists, make art making accessible no matter where you are in your creative process. This space is to help you cultivate that. So Dear Imperfect Artist is a Discord channel. And then with that, every Sunday from 4 to 5 Central Time, my therapist friend and I host a makerspace on Zoom. It's virtual. It's super easy. She curates the vibes with the music. I provide a creative exercise, and everybody just comes in parallel plays individually. So if you have your own artistic project, please bring it. And for an hour, we just create. We have community with other creatives, and then we depart and have the rest of our Sundays. So that will be happening this Sunday. We will be there. And I will also, hopefully, sometime this week, put up the link to that on my LinkedIn. And that's what I got going on. I'll pass over to Sumana. What's going on with you?
Actually, not much. I think I just want to wrap up by saying I'm really appreciative of this space. I've learned a lot. There's a lot to kind of discuss when it comes to the future of work. I loved Sajid Kumar, your topic on key skills, upskilling. Everyone has to upgrade in 2025. I really love that one. I really do want to talk about hybrid work, flexibility. I read a LinkedIn article that was trending about how employees are willing to take 9 to 12% of a salary cutback, just so that they can have remote or flexibility in the workplace, so they don't have to go back to work full time in person. So there's a lot of folks that are, willing to take a lesser salary if it means that they will get flexibility available to them. So I still kind of want to talk about that. I think that's very relevant now that those policies are changing. I'm not seeing as much of a policy change here in Canada, but I know that it is coming. I know that things will start to change, but we've almost like adopted hybrid work, and I feel like almost a lot of the workplaces that I support through consulting are like, no, this is just something that we do anyways. And speaking of hybrid work, I also do want to touch on mental health for remote workers who are remote 100% of the time. And I think, Felipe, that can easily tie into the belonging piece, because if you're a full-time remote worker and all you do is Zoom and audio and teleconferences all day, we're already living in a world where we have self-induced isolation. We order everything from Amazon. We barely step out of the house. Add to that the complexities of working remote, where your entire team is on the computer, and so is your manager. Like, what does that look like for your mental health? So just wanted to kind of put those up out there. Nothing coming up for me. There's our, mental health, not mental health, our regular Jetty Wellness monthly blogs. This month's blog was on workload management strategies. So if you're someone who is struggling with workload strategies, I highly recommend that you check out this month's blog, which is in addition to the Workplace Wellness Hour blog that we do, which is a separate thing, and learn about some workload strategies. We've given you some really cool things there for you to learn, and there's going to be a new one next month as well. And I'm hoping to do an audio event with my Jetty Wellness ambassadors in March, but more about that later. But nothing else beyond just the basic routine work stuff that we're all just working to survive now. Thanks.
Well, thank you, Samana. And I'm looking forward to some of these topics that are being thrown out there. I did work on hybrid work. That is definitely a topic we've got to hit, because here in the U.S., there's been executive order that all government employees have to return to the office 5 days a week. And so that's already started. And so that's something that's definitely impacted. There are some other companies that are looking at following suit. So that's going to be a very relevant topic. I also like the topic about remote work and belonging as well. And Sujith Kumar talked about upskilling in 2025. What skills do we need to work on in 2025? And I think that's a great topic about the future of work. So keep on bringing the suggestions out there. We appreciate all of you all coming here today. Nick, I loved your comment about teaching about P&L, the finances, the profit and loss statement. That is a huge thing. If you want to be transparent about how the company is doing, teach them how to read the financial report. Such a huge thing. Benefits and perks. I love that. It's another great topic. So we are going to be back in 2 weeks with one of these topics under the umbrella of future of work. As far as what I have coming up, you can check out some stuff that I'm doing on other shows on my YouTube channel. Please, help me get my subscribers up. I'm trying to get it a little bit higher than just 50 and some. So anybody that is able to help me with that is appreciated. But you can also find a playlist for the Workplace Wellness Hour and check out the past videos there all in one place. Check out some of the past people we've had and spotlighted and guests we've had. But you can also check some of my other shows I do, the Careers, Chaos, and Coaching with Melissa Houston, or you can check some of the Social Saturday chat. And as far as what I have coming up, it's along those lines. This Saturday, I do have another Social Saturday chat going on. If you want to join us for that, just go to the Social Saturday chat page on LinkedIn and give it a follow. And you'll be notified of the events that we do every Saturday at 12 noon. And then that Sunday, following Sunday, I have our Careers, Chaos, and Coaching with Melissa Houston. So you can join us for that at 11 a.m. Eastern. And that is a chance for you just to get some information about careers and coaching on how to improve your job search or looking to move up in your own company. So with that being said, I look forward to seeing you all in 2 weeks. I appreciate everyone's time today and topics and shares. Marcia and Gregory, we appreciate you coming up. Gregory, I saw your comment. No worries about you didn't get too political. But as far as your comment, I do agree. Sometimes we need to shut off the TV and just let our minds rest. That mental health is also important, because when we get too much information, it's almost like information overload, and our mind needs a break from that. So make sure you do that. Keep on working on your own wellness as well as your workplace wellness. And thank you again for an amazing hour, you two. I really appreciate the two of you all. And I hope you all have a great rest of your week. And we'll see you here in 2 weeks.
Thank you, Felipe. Thank you, Ashley. Love you guys. Bye.
Thank you both. Love you guys.
Bye.
Bye.